Are we live? We should be. Let me check. Let me check that everything's working correctly. And it seems it's great. It's good. Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to this stream about combat mechanics. And we will be talking about, as the title says, a bit about Elden Ring, a bit about implementation inside Unreal Engine, and as always, some tips and tricks that you can use to make your combat more fun. Right, so just let me open my notepad, my first notepad, where I structure all these stream. Here it is. I don't want you to spoil the surprises that come with this stream. Oh, and I also forgot to post this in the server, which is my bad. So let me do that real quick, just so everyone knows that the stream has started. And yeah, let me know how are you and what's the latest thing in Unreal that you have been doing or working on. Let me see. Announcements. And everyone. Whoops. Live right now. Yeah, should be good. Be good enough. Okay, so the way this stream is gonna go is very simple. I'm just going to talk about the combat in Elden Ring, what makes it so good, so we can have a good basis, a good foundation of what good combat looks like. Especially when you're starting out, it's a good idea to have clear examples about stuff being done right and stuff being done wrong, right? And as a player, as a gamer, you probably know what feels right, what feels wrong. I mean, depending on the type of game, maybe Elden Ring can be too hard or too easy, depending on the type of gamer you are. But even though it's too hard, you can understand that the gameplay is good. It's just that it's not my type of gameplay, right? So that's what I want to do in that first part, like a little bit of analysis. Then we will go to how to tweak your game right now. What steps can you do right now in order to enhance the combat or well any combat mechanic that you have, make it feel very good. Then we will do a little bit of overview in the game we're working on, like applying all the stuff that we talk about and how we're applying it to the game that we're working right now, so I can show you the actual implementation, and we can do an overview on how it works, and then some of the pitfalls that you can fall during, well, your work in your game. So let me read some comments. So would make like hit stop tutorial, or this is not a tutorial. This is more of an overview of a system that we have already created about combat mechanic in our game, which resembles a lot of the type of hack and slash or something more related to just third person action game. What other comment is there? Hi Ram, I'm getting a lot of Unreal Editor crashes. I have 60GB RAM, Ryzen RTX, is the speed is not good enough. if they are random crashes, well, first of all, try to determine if it's crashing in a specific way. Maybe opening a level that is too heavy with meshes, or too heavy with shaders, or too heavy with, I don't know, whatever content you have added to your game. If every time you open that map and you receive a crash, then it probably is just a memory thing. Or it can also be that the graphics card maybe not be that powerful, right? If you're processing a lot of stuff, I mean, if it's during gameplay, then it opens up the door for it being maybe a CPU type of problem. But if it's just random, then, well, I mean, as always, just update everything. Update the graphics card driver, update your the Windows or the OS that you are using, and try to keep it everything updated. And if it's still crashing, then, I mean, the PC you're describing sounds good enough. I mean, the 30, 58 gigabytes could be like a little bit, and I mean, you could be working it extra hard, but I mean, try to. Do I have my Unreal open? I think I don't have Unreal open. Let me just open it. Try to lower your quality settings. Maybe from going to by default is in high or in epic settings. You can just use the low or medium and start working and see if that's the issue, right? And the scalability settings I'm talking about is just here. Engine scalability settings by default is in epic. If you're crashing or just too slow, go to high or medium. Let me just finish the the chat questions. Enhance, you mean downgrade? Yeah, whoa. I was seeing a lot of backlash about the new Elden Ring DLC. It seems like it's too hard. I haven't played it yet, but it all comes down to the mechanics. For this stream, we're not talking about balancing. Balancing is its whole topic that we could do a stream about in the future if a lot of people ask for it. But yeah, we're not talking about balancing. We're just talking about making the combat feel right. Is this focusing on the mobs or the user? Mostly on the user. The mobs could be more targeted to an AI type of stream. Yeah. I'm using auto. Yeah. Try using just medium or low and see if you're still crashing. If you're not crashing, then try going a step further and see if you're crashing again. Are you using gas or gameplay ability system? Yes, we are using gameplay ability system. Um, Not as much as I would like to, but we are using it in our project. Yeah. Okay, so let's start. We have I have answered most of the things in the chat. We can start. This is just divided into sections. I will just go through one section. Should be around 5 to 15 minutes, and after that, I will take a look at the chat again, and then answer some other questions, right? So you can leave your questions. I will answer them. Just let me finish the first part, and then I'll go back to the chat. So let's start, right? So what makes combat good? And I have already opened Elden Ring just so we can actually test it and see. And I will have my trusty whiteboard that some people really don't like, but I think most people like it. I mean, I could open Paint, but that's too streamer of me if I just open Paint and I just draw. And you will miss my awesome handwriting. Whoops, it's not it. Right on, the white is really killing my eyes. So let me just, there we go. Okay. What makes the combat good? We can talk about a lot of stuff that can make the gameplay good. I just want to focus on 3 things that are very key in most of games. They are called the 3, and I'll put it in red just so it's very clear. The 3 C's. And these are more like guidelines or things to keep in mind whenever you are working on a game. These are not rules. Not all the games will have the 3 C's, so to speak. But what are they? And let's begin with that. One is the character. Character, and please don't bully me for my handwriting, but it is what it is. The second one is the camera, and the third one is the controls. Those are the 3 C's that you can find in game development, especially when you are trying to get the feeling of a game right. And if your game is based around the combat, like for example Elden Ring and for example our game that we're working on, then you really need to have these 3 elements very tight, very good. You need to make them feel good. The character is more about what the character can do, what I will put it like can do. This groups the movement, the abilities, the attacks, how is the character designed, or what it looks like. You can have a pixel type of character. You could have a robotic type of character that moves very choppy, very without interpolation, because I cannot find a word to describe it. Very robotic like. Or maybe a young character with very fluid motion, or an assassin type of character, very sneaky, right? What it looks like, what it feels like, and what it can do. I'm just giving it like a super overview, quick overview of what you will find, right? This is really not a game design class, but we need to talk about it a little bit. The camera is the perspective that the actual player will be seeing through. So yeah, the point of view, the POV. You will need to determine what advantages or disadvantages this POV will have. If it's a top-down, you will have most of the view of the map, of the level, so your understanding of your environment will be greater than if I just put you in a first-person type of view. Disadvantage of a top-down type of camera is that you will not make the player feel that connected with the character, because it's super removed from the perspective of the actual character, right? If you are playing a first-person shooter, then you're actually very invested or involved in whatever the character is doing, because it's like you're seeing it through the eyes of the character. That's pretty much it. Like the things that you need to nail with your camera. See what advantages it can bring, see what disadvantages you may be losing. And the controls is just a matter of choosing something that will be responsive, whatever responsive means in your type of game. Sometimes you want to add some lag to your input, depending if your game, like, oh, you're drunk now, then you might want to mess around with the inputs, right, and make it a little bit more laggy. Could be you're reflecting it, the state of the game through the controls. So the controls. So, yeah. So that's pretty much it. And well, if you can follow any type of what is it called? Do you have it? I'll just put it like scheme. And even better, common schemes. It helps, even though it like takes away a little bit of uniqueness of your game, because, well, if you are developing for maybe the Nintendo Switch and every game you accept stuff with your button A, and you're the only game that with B is the one that you accept, and you reject stuff with A, then you have a big problem. And probably you will not pass the test of the actual Nintendo team reviewing your game in order to be accepted, because one of the guidelines is that you need to follow, specifically that one, you need to follow. But if you're developing for PC, it's a little bit more open, right? You really can put your controls to whatever key you want. So give you that edge. But if you're not following certain conventions, like maybe you don't want to point or move the camera around with your mouse, you want to move it with the keys, and well, like old games, maybe like Doom, then you're going against the trend or most of the current games that we have right now. But again, it helps using the common schemes that already exist, but you can make your game more unique if you don't, or at least if you evolve from it a little better. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, what lessons can we get from Elden Ring? Because, well, right now, maybe the popular opinion is not that good, but the game is very solid. Believe it or not, I only have the base game. Hopefully, am I able to see it? Let me just put this here. But this is not it. This is my game. Did it got closed? Oh no, here it is. Yeah, let me just... I believe it is not fitting in my... in my OBS. Let me just change the size. No, I didn't want to log in. Now to system. And instead of full screen, borderless. Otherwise it won't fit. There we go. Yes, and I will... Okay. I believe I'm in the first part of the level. This is a clean installation, like I was playing Elden Ring in another console, so in Steam I really don't have it. I mean, I was using Steam to play the co-op mode, and that uses a separate save, so yeah. So here I am. And it's using a controller, so let me grab my controller very quick. pretty quickly. I should be able to connect it. Right. So here we have. Here we can analyze the first thing. And let me just venture a little bit to the side. I'll just copy this and put it here. So we have our character, right? What can he do? What does it look? What does it look like? Well, in Elden Ring, you really can customize your character. Usually, you will want to make it look a little bit, I mean, good, or whatever you think it looks good for this type of game. Some people create a lot of interesting characters, and some people really create a lot of cursed characters. Whatever you like. I mean, that's a positive because you're letting the player express itself, well, express themselves through a character. So that's good. What can it do? Well, depending on the type of weapon, you can move around, you can run, you can attack, and you have more mechanics, right? Because you have this attack, quick attack, you have this heavy attack, and if I had a shield, which I don't have, I could block, and then, well, I can use that. If I remember correctly, it was Ash something. It's just an attack that consumes your mind power, or your MP for... I think it's mind power, but magical power? Who knows? So we have those bars, the stamina bar, that will affect your attacks. And from here, the stuff gets a little bit more crazy. Why? Because the camera, as you can see, is a third-person camera. I might as well take a screenshot of that. Right, so we have a third-person camera. What advantages does it give me? Well, I have a little bit of more vision, right, of my surroundings, which, if you're playing Elden Ring or this type of games or this type of combat, you really want. You really want to have that type of vision because a lot of enemies are very sneaky. And you also want to know and start, I don't know, analyzing your environment to see where am I able to go, what paths can I take. And in this case, something that I skipped in the part where I was seeing or talking about the character is that in this game the character can jump, which allows for even more complex mechanics like, well, jumping and attacking, or jumping and doing a heavy attack, right? So we can run, jump, heavy attack, and it's very different if I would just run and attack, right? You can see that those are different attacks. Yeah, so this camera allows for that. Now, what's the problem of this camera? In spaces, not exactly like this, there are more claustrophobic spaces, but in reduced spaces where the enemy is very big, you will get this. And yeah, that character is... Woof. I just put random and went with it. It gets very rough because the camera is colliding with the walls. And here you have the first enemy you can find. Oh, you can also lock in and the camera will help you, or you can just fight without locking in. Look here. So in cases where I'm surrounded by enemies, okay, I can see that guy. Oh, I can see that guy, but if I was against two, here I really cannot see what's coming behind me, right? If this was a third person, or excuse me, a top-down type of game, then I will be able to see, oh, they're coming for me from the front and from the back. Oh, and I also had the roll around, but we will talk about it in a little bit. And the issue with that is that it's really not an issue. I mean, it is an issue if your gameplay, you wanted your character or your player to always be mindful of its surroundings by just giving it like, oh, let me just have a top-down camera and I will make the camera a lot higher so you can see a lot about the game or the enemies. This would mean that the game is a more strategic one. This is more an action one where you are encouraged to, okay, I'm battling with you, but I also need to be mindful of if there's someone or something behind me. Then you can see the camera. If you hold the stick, then the camera goes a little bit faster than if you're just doing this. Right, so it allows you for that type of play where oh, I'm facing this because I ran from that enemy. Okay, I will attack you, but then I'll see. And even easier if you're just looking in and then you are just flicking the stick just to see. I'm gonna die here if I just play. Right, so and that's why I'm not really a gaming stream, because if I'm playing I really cannot talk. Right, so here something that you can't really perceive just by seeing someone play is the feel of the controls, which actually they feel pretty good. How can you determine this? Well, whenever you want to do something, oh, what did I do? Whenever you want to do something and it doesn't happen, then you have an issue of responsiveness. If I want to see behind me and my camera is taking this long, then you really don't have a responsive control scheme. If I attack, you can see that, okay, there is definitely a wind-up animation, right? It's not immediate. There are games, Dynasty Warrior comes to mind, where as soon as you trigger the attack, immediately does it. It skips a few frames just to make you know that the attack will go right this instant. In this type of game, because, okay, you do the attack is a little bit slower, and if you do the heavy attack is even more slower, it still gives you a little bit of control. Because if I'm attacking this way and I'm pushing my character, or well, my movement to the backside, the character do rotate. And I can tweak the direction that I want to attack. So even though the attacks are slow compared to any hack and slash type of game, it does leave you a degree of control of it. And if you really want to deal more damage or have even more like a powerful attack, if you want to do that, you have the ability. You just need to know that the trade-off is an even slower attack, and you even can charge this, I believe. Yes, you can charge this. So it's constantly constantly presenting to you different alternatives of gameplay. You can either go for fast type of gameplay, which will actually make you think less but deal less damage, or better positioning will mean that you can stay in place and charge an attack, right? Or use an special attack. So the gameplay in this case is very balanced. It gives you a lot of alternative, it even has more weapons that give you even more alternatives, and you really don't want to box your player into one type of gameplay. I mean, you know what game you are trying to create, right? And what type of player you are, you should actually focus on that. But whenever that's feeling good, then you need to start thinking, okay, how can I make my game a little bit more accessible? What other options that are interesting for me can I add? Like, for example, I mean, if you're making a hack and slash, you can also implement like a type of attack where you need to charge, which makes it a little bit slower, but is the trade-off, right? You can get a little more strategy in it. Other mechanics that the player can do, well, you can go to the backside, you can sneak. I forgot about this. You can go to the backside and actually backstab, making even another layer of combat where when you are just trying to be sneaky. And this guy, did it see me? I don't think it did. Or you can be fast, and I missed completely. But yeah, in this case, the lessons that we are learning here is, even though the pace of the game is not that fast, it's very strategic in the timing that you need to do the attacks. And there will be bosses that you need to have a little bit more of reflexes in order to react to those type of attacks, and then you will need to learn attack patterns in order to be somewhat successful in this game. But yeah, I mean, they are from the makers from these type of games, right? From Software really like this type of punishing games where you have a clear strategy, you need to learn the mechanics, and there are more advanced mechanics that I cannot pull off in this stream. And yeah, makes it so the combat that already exists can build on top of each other. You can start spamming this attack, make your opponent stagger, then hit a charge attack, right? And with the parries that this doesn't have, with the parries and dodges and rolls, like, you can actually make a very interesting type of gameplay. Okay, so here we have this parries, dodges. It even increases the skill cap of the game. So yeah, those are the main things that are making the game, well, look good, feel good with the controls, look good with the character, and also feel good with the camera. You will see that the camera, and if I I'll just take a screenshot so you can see. The camera is not actually very fast either. There is a lot of camera lag, and that's not the key that I wanted to press. Right, so we can compare these images. You see that the center, let me use the yellow. You see that the center is here, but the same center, whenever you're moving, your character is actually to the side. And these are little tweaks that really makes it feel good, really sells the idea of the combat or the combat pace, because even the camera is not super responsive. It's not following your every move exactly. Like, there is the camera lag. You can see that here is the center. The player, when it's moving, is not on the center. Even when it's moving forward, you can see that the camera tries to catch up to the player. And this is more noticeable if we are running. The player goes even forward, making it so the action of running feels like, oh, you're really going faster. It sells the idea very well. Yeah, when I stop, then the camera catches up. Yeah, and the animation of stopping, yeah, also helps, right? Because it like stops on its tracks, and then the camera comes in with a smooth zoom. Yeah, so that's actually what really sells this. Solid controls, the camera very smooth when it needs to be. Whenever you're locking in, I believe that it becomes a lot more responsive. Yeah, so as soon as I lock on, it's immediate. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to show for this part, and then we will see how can we implement this stuff on our game. Let me exit this now. System. Quit game. Great. So I hope it was clear. Let me check the chat. As I said before, I will be like doing sections and then I'll check the chat. Are you planning on doing an AI stream soon? I have a few suggestions for that. Be sure to leave those suggestions as a comment so I don't lose them in the live chat. But yeah, I would love to give an AI type of stream talking about what we have done in our game and also more examples, right? Saludos, un gusto verte de nuevo. Gracias, Leo, un gusto igual. The animation and interactions targeting system is locked or unlocked, and they also have the first person POV for range weapon. That's true. And it lets you target stuff a lot more easily. Crouch, jump, running, roller, blocking attacks. Exactly. You just got the hang of it. Like, determining all the things that your character can do will actually influence a lot of the control schemes and also how the camera will behave. So having the character well defined is a good idea. And just remember, every time you add a new mechanic or a new thing that the character can do, you need to update the other, or you will need to check again. Do I need to change the controls? Do I need to change the camera? It's just like that. It's the iteration process that every game developer goes through. Nekoni says, bit of a weird question, but you think the outfit and armor placement in the Souls game follow the division of sims in the mesh, even though armors and outfits are so different from each other? This is more related to the actual modeling and asset creation, which I'm the programmer of UNF games, so I really don't have any idea. So I really don't want to just talk out of my butt about it. But the certain thing about sims that I have seen before is that they just place them wherever it's not easy to see. Like for example, under the arms, or for example, um, in the back of something that they know you won't be able to see it, like inside a jacket or something like that. And yeah, armors also have seams like the true 3D, 3D, the real world armors. They also have seams. And I believe it's easier to hide them there. Yeah, turn around and press target lock to instantly snap the camera. Yes. Yeah, I forgot to do that, but that's true. You can even do that, making it a lot easier to just see behind you, right? And that's even an kind of advanced mechanic that you don't really uh, find until you just are messing around with the controls and you see, oh, this actually just centers my camera. You can turn around, click the thumbstick, and then you're snapped completely. So it gives you that responsiveness needed for uh, for the for the combat, right? How can we instantly turn the character to input direction in Unreal Engine? We will cover this. How can we instantly turn the character to input direction? I mean, I think it's very simple, but we can do a little example on it. And yeah. Also, Mildred Saga. It's good to have someone really knowledgeable to to the game that I was talking about. So if I missed any details, then you can find it in the chat. Right. So let's continue. Let me see my notepad so I don't forget anything that I was talking about. And Gia says, "Good one, Ram. Awesome that you're awake." I'm just kidding. Okay, the next section is tweaks you can do to your to your game right now, right? And one last comment that I just saw in Souls Combat, the animation makes you commit to input with the animation is never divided per bones on hip. Um, it really depends. For the melee combat, no, it's not divided per bones. And I'm receiving a call. Don't care about that call. But for range animation, yes, because you can move while you are targeting with the bow. Not the first person target, just if you click on the thumbstick and then you're looking and you start attacking with the bow, you will see that you can move and actually shoot the arrows. It's not that precise, but you can do it. In that case, yes, it is divided. The animation of moving for the legs and the animation of actually using the weapon, the ranged weapon, um, for the hip and up, right? Or well, the spine one or spine bone, the first one, and up. Right. So let's go with the other example. Right. This is my notepad, and I will wait. So with the lessons of what we saw in Elden Ring, what can you do to tweak your game right now? Well, we talk about the 3 C's a lot, so we might as well revise them, right? Here I have the game that I'm currently working on. I just need to drag a character. Here's my character. I'll press play. And I need to compile some things before, otherwise it's going to be a little bit laggy. Okay, it is better. Yeah, it's a lot better. Perfect. So I have my controller here. We can move around. And something that I didn't talk in Elden Ring, whenever you do an attack, you may have been able to see it. You use stamina. In our game, this is actually, might as well show you like a little bit of the flow before just talking about it. Otherwise, it will be super confusing. If you have seen it, great. If you haven't, you will be able to see it now. It's actually a strategy game, a turn-based strategy game. We have our normal, oh, you begin the battle, and it's because I'm streaming and recording, so that's why it's a little bit, okay. We can change between the units. We have this top-down type of camera that gives you an overview of the actual space, because this is something that the player really needs to know. Then whenever you, let me just reduce the quality a little bit. Oh, it really reduced it. High, maybe. Give me my colors back. Okay. Didn't give me the colors back. There we go. And you choose the character. We have this little camera, so you really know what to choose. The UI is completely a work in progress. Here we would probably like to show you the stats and the health that this player has. Well, this unit has. And whenever you accept, it becomes a little bit of an action type of game, right? We can move around, and you should be able to do damage and spend some stamina in whatever you do. And we do have some combos that I should be able to perform. If there we go. Yeah, and it's compiling a lot of shaders because I haven't opened this project this week. But yeah, we have a lot of stuff that we can do. And whenever you run out of stamina, you can pass. Then the AI will play, and then, well, it's your turn again, right? It's an actual turn-based strategy game with the mechanic of, well, whenever you're in combat, you're actually in control of the character, right? And we took a lot of lessons from a lot of hack and slashes, and also the Souls games. I believe we took a lot of lessons, near Automata also, right? So that's the gameplay. And let me just open a new level to show you how you can start tweaking your things, right? So again, let me add my character, our dear Calypso. And this is just a character type of blueprint. You can create it very easily. Just right click, blueprint class, character. If I just open it, you will see that, well, we have the capsule component, we have the mesh, and we have the character movement. This is the ability system component for the gameplay ability system. Some information about the unit that I want to change that, but still here. Some combat stats, and, well, a spline in order to draw the aggro line that maybe you saw it, maybe you didn't, but that's just other gameplay mechanics. The main thing that we can tweak here is, well, the actual collision of the character. You really don't want your character, and let me just copy this value, right? It's copied. Yes, it's copied. And let me just put 30. If you have it like this, then your character will look like this. So what kind of what kind of experience? Oh, come on, dude. Oh, did I close it? No, here it is. What kind of experience am I giving the player regarding the character? What does it look like? Well, it looks like this game is glitched. So it's a good idea to take a little bit of time finding the correct size that works for your character, and you will see that right now it's even it's okay. But if you want to make it feel better, add a little bit of IK to your legs. That way, if there's an obstacle or the level is in a slope, then the feet won't just pass through the floor. It will be adjusted, so makes it feel a lot better. So that's one thing. The other thing is the movement component. If you are doing any type of development with the character, you're probably using the movement component. And the movement component have a lot of stuff that will make your player or all the character feel a lot different. There are stuff. The most common one is the walk speed. Right now, I can use the walk speed, and you will see I'm moving at that pace. You will see that the animation matches most of the movement. If I just increase this maybe to 3,000, 3,000, there we go, then you'll see that it comes to a point that it's not really believable, right? Probably I would need to adjust the animation. Depending on the type of game, you would want this type of movement, or a little bit slower in our case, right? It's all about tweaking and playing on these properties, right? And I will tell you which ones are the ones that make the most impact in a bit. I want to open a new project probably for this. I don't want to create stuff on my main level. I think this closes my current project, which I don't want to do. So let me just go here, Unreal Engine. Let me open, I believe it's called my project 3. Okay, so you will need to change the properties that I have, or that I will show you more in a minute. Specifically, which ones are the ones that make the most sense or the most changes. But in order to do that, you will need to, well, go here, change it, press play, and come here back again, which can take a lot of time. So it is advisable that you create a little tool in order to make your life a lot easier, right? In my case, I have this. Well, let me toggle the game UI. Let me toggle infinite stamina and my test component that give me this simple menu, and I created it. I created this yesterday, so I don't have all the actual things that I would want to see, but it's a good idea to have a menu that works with the properties that you can actually change it on runtime and see how it changes, right? So here in walk speed, I will enable this, and you will see now that I can increase or decrease my walk speed if needed, right? So it will be a lot easier to change, and I have that checkbox. So if I want to return to the default value, this is the value that I changed. The default value is this. Probably I should update the number that it says right there, but okay. It always can use more work on it. And I do need to shout out the Epic team because I got this idea from them. I mean, I was doing it another way, but I got this idea from them, like creating a menu that actually modifies this and have a check that that actually can return you to the default value, and you can see and check the differences, right? So you can see how the max acceleration also works. Like, this is my current acceleration. If I just bump it up a little bit or a lot, you will see that I'm reaching the max speed immediately. Or, well, faster. Now it's enabled. You will see that my acceleration jumps immediately to the max warp speed. And if I disable it, now it's ramping up towards that max speed. So we can play around, or it will be easier to play around if you have a menu like this. You can create it very easily. I will show you in a minute. I mean, I will do an overview on how you can create it. I won't actually create it again, otherwise it will take me a little bit of more than just half an hour. And the other thing that you can hook up to this is the target arm length. Target arm length will determine how far or how near your camera will be. So now here, it's a whole new type of game if we're playing it like this. Camera lag speed also influences a lot, and you will see it even more if my camera is closer. Camera lag speed, if you go to 0, you don't have camera lag speed. But the more that you bump this value, the more camera lag speed, the less that you do it, the more lag speed you have. But as soon as you reach 0, it's instant. So this is one of the lower values. One is also kind of slow. Like, you can tweak it to be a little bit faster, like maybe 10. Makes it so, yeah, there is camera lag speed, but it's not that noticeable. It's more snappy. Yeah, but I really like our value of 3. You can see that the camera does the same effect as Elden Ring. Oh, what a surprise. Because that was something that looked really cool. And if we had an animation of the character stopping, it will be even better. And yeah, some things that we took from Nier Automata is our camera position. Whenever we just want to look upwards, we don't want the character to obstruct the view of our player. So it goes to the side. That's a really neat addition that I wanted to add to our game, because I saw that in Nier Automata and was immediately like, oh, it actually lets you see more of the environment. And whenever you're dealing with a strategy game, then it's very, if you're changing the camera perspective, you will lose a lot of the ability to see the map. So it's actually pretty good. Right, so let's jump to the actual meat of this part of what can you do to tweak. And if this was a YouTube video, I don't think it will perform very well because you usually want to lead with that, but it's a live stream because of that. So what do you need to tweak? Let me just add, this is a blank project. Well, the only thing that it has is the third person character. Yeah. Blueprints, let me go to the third person map. This is just a template of the third person. And you can see immediately, you can move your character, you can jump. And this character already have Fit IK. So that's pretty good. That makes it feel a lot better. So things that actually make a lot of difference with your character. Let me open the blueprint of the character and let me I'll put it here because I will be jumping forward and back with this. You just need to select the it may be because I'm running another Unreal editor at the same time. But okay, you just need to select the camera movement, character movement component, and here, gravity scale, the first one. It impacts a lot of the character in terms of just how the gravity affects it, as its name says. So the movement will be very affected by this. If you have no, and especially if your character can't jump, then it will impact it even more. If you have 0, means no gravity. I will dock it here. I don't know why it's causing me so much issue. So if I just jump, then whoop, I have no gravity, I cannot fall. So tweaking this value, the gravity scale, can make it feel like your character is very floaty. If a value of 1 is a very floaty type of movement, some side scrollers are like this. And if you increase the gravity scale, it will make it so, okay, your movements will now need to be very precise, and just take in consideration that whenever you are adding or increasing the gravity scale, you will also need to increase it should be in jumping, the C velocity. Jumping C velocity, I will multiply it maybe by 4, and that's not multiplying it. Okay, so I multiply it by 4. Yeah, it was too much. Maybe by 2, but you can see that my character is a lot heavier. This type of movements work for mechs because the mechs is super heavy, but they have big thrusters, right? That you can jump immediately and fall to the ground very fast. Right, so gravity scale, big one. Let me just return the values to normal. I believe this was 175. Max acceleration goes in hand with the max walk speed. If your walk speed is too low, you can put this max acceleration to a big number, and the only thing that it will do, you will reach faster that max walk speed. So makes it a little bit more responsive, right? Now, if you are playing with low values, maybe 100, this means that the character needs a little bit more of wind-up time in order to reach the actual max walk speed, right? You can see the actual acceleration going, and every time you stop, you need to go back at it again. So in terms of responsiveness, the acceleration does matter a lot, and it will be very very important whenever you are braking. And braking, deceleration, walking, if you put it at the same pace or a little bit more of the acceleration, you now should be able to have, like, okay, we have this slow wind up till we reach, but whenever we stop, then we have that deceleration happening. Right? And we could probably put an animation in order for the character to keep walking. But right now it looks like it's on ice, right? So also works for that. Okay. What else? What else? It's very important. Oh, the angle is just if you have this type of slopes, but increased. Should be more. Depending on your walkable angle, you will be able to either walk up it, or, and you see now why I have the menu in the other place, right? Like, I need to change this and then come back here and play and test it and be like that. We changed the angle and now we cannot walk upwards. That slope matter a lot. Now the friction is important, so you can note how your character will respond, and especially if you are changing directions, like it says here. Walk speed, how fast can you walk? You can crouch with the character, so you can change also the speed of being crouched. The other one that is important is the jumping. Oh, they can walk off ledges. I believe in our course we touch on this, so you don't fall through ledges in this case here. Very, very useful. And you can activate that or deactivate it during runtime. The air control and the jumping, it's really helpful if you're creating a platforming type of game. Give you control. Let me just put it. Air control boost multiplier. I'll put it to 100 just so you can see. Now when we are in the air, let me jump a lot. Okay. I multiply it by 10, so must be enough. Whenever we are in the air, we are able to move a little bit or none at all, right? This is the air control. And changing the value, we have a threshold here. Let me just bump it to a big value. And now when we jump, we are now able to move more in the air, right? So it's a combination of the air control that you have here. And is this, okay, 0 no control, 1 full control. Let me just put 1. And now we have full control. I'm still limited by the threshold, right? And I think I have been... Oh no, I thought I was blocking the settings with my face, but it's good. Right, so we can play around a lot with the air control. It's very important whenever you want your character to either move or don't move in the air. And you do want a little bit of of control in order for your player to pinpoint the location that you want to land in. After that, we have swimming options, flying options, but the other one that I wanted to showcase was this one, the rotation rate. How fast is your player rotating, right? Because there was also a question on how can you rotate to the input directly, like immediately. Here you can see that the rotation rate is not that fast, and we can change it here. Rotation rate in the jaw. Um, what I usually do is I just multiply by 2 or by 4 and then see if that value is too great. By 4. No? Okay. By 4. And after that, I just start dividing by 2 until I find a good enough value. Or a value that feels good, right? And now we rotate immediately. And if it didn't happen immediately, then you just need to bump up the value and it will happen immediately. Here you can rotate to the movement. You can remove that. And then your character won't rotate at all. You can also rotate it to the controller desired rotation. And now you will get some type of strafing where it's rotating to my mouse, to my camera, to where it's looking towards, but not with the movement. So you probably will need animations in order to strafe and move around. You can create a very simple mechanic. Like I will put a debug input X, and here I could, where's the rotation rate? Oh, it was 500, I believe. I can put it like this, and whenever I press the X, flip flop, set use controller desired rotation. True. And I'll just put it like this, like so we can change it from false to true, and from true to false, right? Very easy. Play it. You have your normal movement. Press X. Did I press X? Is this working actually? Oh. This set. I also need to change the other value. Movement follow, I believe. If no, how is it called, this property? Where's my rotation? Rotation settings. Orient rotation to movement. Set orient rotation to movement, and it's the same thing, but I just need to negate it. So not. Okay. And I will just print a message just so I know that I'm modifying the correct thing. Okay, so now we have this. Whenever I press X, we orientate our character towards a point. Very useful if you are locking into something. So, oh, here I'm locked onto something, so I'm strafing. I stop being locked onto something, and then I'm moving fine, right? The only thing that we would need to modify now is here in the spring arm. The spring arm is what is actually holding the camera, and here you can modify the location or how far away we want our camera to be by changing the target arm length. And now our character is completely completely different. It's a completely different feel. Makes it more like a Sims type of game, right? We can create some offsets if we want to just target the right shoulder. I can. Oh, it was not in X, it was in Y. I can modify. I'll just put 200. I can modify the offsets, and now I have an over the shoulder type of, well, not that exactly over the shoulder. It just moved it to the side. It would be better to just get the camera and drag it here. And now we have a type of camera over the shoulder, right? And let me just return this value to normal. Again, in the spring arm component, you will want to play a lot with the, where is it? Camera lag. There is camera lag for distances and camera rotation lag. And I will enable the first one, and I will put 1 in both values because 1 is, it's very noticeable. Yeah, very noticeable. And in terms of rotation, again, 1. And you can set up a threshold, a max distance for your camera, which is something that you would definitely want to do. Otherwise, your camera could be left behind very easily, right? Here is leaving me behind. And the rotation is how fast or slow you're reaching the current rotation, right? So you can feel that it will be a little bit more weird the lower the values are. So you need to really play with this to make it actually feel good. Just having no camera lag makes it oh, come on, makes it less interesting. So yeah, at least add a little bit of camera lag for me. Trust me, you can do. So those are things that you can do right now to tweak your combat mechanics. And I'm just giving it like this in the terms of camera and in the terms of controls, because combat mechanics are very, very diverse. And it really depends on your type of combat, how you can make it feel better, right? But these specific tips work for any type of game. Unless you don't have a character. Even though if you don't have a character, you can move the camera and add some camera lag for some actions. And if you can add camera shakes for stuff, like when you land and there's a camera shake, then also it increased the actual feeling of the game. So those are the tips. And let me see if there's any question. Is the floor in this level nanite landscape with displacement? Oh, in the other level, yes, I believe it was. And they fixed it for this or I believe it isn't, because the other project is in the 5.3. We haven't upgraded, so yeah, I don't think it is. We were getting some weird results with it, but I didn't do it, so I really can't talk about that specific part. Okay, so let's continue with my super notepad to the next thing that I wanted to show, and that's an overview of the combat system in our game. Before we start that, there was another comment. What about game feel? How to get how to get a good game feel? Okay, I am guessing that you have at least a little bit of background in just playing games. And the easier way to know if your game is feeling right or wrong is by, well, playing it. If it's a combat focused game, maybe you are playing well, let's say Elden Ring, right? And you want to block, and the blocked whenever you press the key happened 3 seconds later. You will know immediately that you wanted to do an action and you couldn't do it. That's a big indicator that something's wrong. Other indicators, for example, let's say that this cube was a crate. If this cube was a crate and I'm playing my game and I can attack freely and I go to the cube and I hit it and nothing happened, there is an expectation of the player that this crate probably would have been destroyed. So that is a mismatch of expectation of the player and what the actual game deliver. If those are not synchronized, you get a bad feeling. Now, this doesn't mean that the crate, like every crate needs to be destroyable. Sometimes you get levels in games where the crates are stacked on each other. I'll just use my shortcuts a lot easier. So these are crates on top, stacked on top of each other. And here I will have a big crate. If the object is too big, you probably would not expect to break it when you hit it. So it is the same object, but here the expectation is that, oh, it won't break. So most players won't even hit it. If it breaks, then it will be a big surprise for the player, and then the player will start hitting everything in the game probably. So just take that in consideration if you want everything to break. But in this case, even though there are a lot of crates, they seem that they could be broken. So in that case, you might as well make them breakable or just remove them from here or just increase their size so the expectation is different. This is very common, especially in first levels when the player is just testing stuff. It's just rolling around, it's just attacking everything they see. If you have an NPC, they are going to attack it. And depending on that, on the result of that interaction, if you hurt it, then the player will know, oh, I can hurt NPCs, I won't attack them anymore. Or I will kill every one of them. Or if you can't hit NPCs, the player will learn, well, you cannot hit NPCs on this game, then if you later on add the mechanic that, oh, you better be hitting NPCs because some of them are evil, then you're in big trouble because you already taught the player that, well, you can't hit NPCs. And it's very common whenever you have an animal or a creature in the first level that is not doing damage. Last time I saw it, it was a deer that appeared and was running around. I tried to hit it. It's just exploration of the game, right? And not being able to hit it is like, oh, weird, right? And I'm not saying that, oh, you need to hit all deers or kill all deers in all games, right? You can hit it and get a response that is not exactly like a death, right? You can hit it and then it could play a sound and run away, or it can attack you and then run away, or something like that, right? Or just as soon as you hit it, the deer dodges and runs away. That can also be like, oh, the actual game, the actual world environment is reacting to my actions. So that also contributes on getting your game feeling good, matching the player expectation. And if you're making the game, probably you're making it with you as your target. If you're an indie game, if you're working for someone else, then you need to put yourself in the target audience, right? In order to have a better understanding on how to make the game better. So another question was it there's a pressing buttons on release of the button. I mean, not different, especially when you have multiple integral. Yeah. The thing about pressing buttons, whenever you release them or whenever you just pressed it, uh, also plays a huge part on it. And yeah, whenever you get multiple inputs, actions interconnected that require multiple inputs, yes, it makes a lot of difference. Yeah. So let's continue. Okay, so let me just open the level. It was this one. Okay. Let me give you an overview of the mechanics of the the main combat mechanic of our game, which is just basic attacks. So we will begin the battle. We will choose our character, accept again, and here we have our character. There we have our enemies. I want infinite stamina, so I don't need to pass. There we have it. And the main combat tool that we have at our disposal is just what we call light attacks. which are very common in this types of game, right? We just and we do have like targeting. We just left click, and well, in this case, the enemy parried, which it's a percentage that you can receive whenever you are light attacking, and that's a light attack. You can change. Oh, okay. If you another mechanic is that if you remain close to an enemy after certain times, the enemy will attack you. I mean, it's a strategy game that it doesn't mean that the enemy should stay just watching you without doing anything. You can chain light attacks to create combos, and whenever your hit rate increases to 100 or near 100, you can always do a heavy attack, but you have a percentage that determines if you fail the hit or not. So the way that the game works is you're light attacking, increasing that yellow bar that is like the amount of exhaustion that the enemy has, and then you can be sure that your heavy attack will hit. This is my heavy attack, and I was too far away, or I just didn't hit it. There it goes. There I hit it. So what? Oops. Then whenever you do your heavy attack, your turn ends immediately. You can also do abilities here. I believe we have a menu for that. And I don't remember. Okay. It's a little bit broken for now because I was redoing the menu. So yeah, it's not gonna work as expected, but it's working kind of. So the thing about this is that because our main way of doing damage is this heavy attack, we really need to make sure that the collisions work. We really need to make sure that every time I'm hitting the enemy, I'm only giving it one hit. And after that, we need, when the action actually ends, when this action animation ends, I need to again be able to hit the same enemy, so I can do multiple attacks. Let me give me infinite stamina, like this. Oh, and the infinite stamina, it seems that I didn't program it for it to work with the hits. That's good to know. Okay, like this. Right. So how are we doing the actual tracing? Let's call it that, because we are doing tracing. I'm doing it in the weapon component because we have a lot of units. Everything here is a unit. Oops. And the unit could have a different weapon. So we have some weapon components. We have a base weapon unit weapon component, a melee weapon component, and a range weapon component because they work a little bit different. Right, so let me open the melee component. And this part is in Blueprint, so it will be easier to show. You see that the character here is the mesh and all the modular components. And we have this child weapon with child actor that is the weapon of my character, right? And we are just attaching it to a socket. This weapon has the component and also everything needed for this weapon to work. This is an skeletal mesh. The sword is just the VFX Guille created. The sparks, again, VFX. Pretty simple. I believe the collision... Yeah, there's no collision in the weapon. Everything related to the collision is being handled by the weapon component. So let me open the parent class. This weapon component is just in charge of being on charge of managing how the weapon is behaving right now. We can activate the weapon, we can deactivate the weapon. This just means turning on and on the collisions. Doing damage to the actor is actually doing the damage. It's checking that the actor has not been hit before. And if it has been hit before, then we're not doing damage to it. If it hasn't, then, well, we're doing damage to it. Let me just dock this to a sidebar so we can have a little bit more space for the graph. We're checking that the actor is alive, and then if it's on a team that I can do damage, we are removing the friendly fire. We are just firing some stuff, calculating the hit rate. This part is done in C++. We're checking if the other character can parry, if it can deflect, if it can evade, if it can block, if it can, block. If they block, they still receive damage. It's just a percentage reduced. And then we have a hit result that we are going to send to my character as a gameplay effect spec to the target. Right, so we're hitting because our health exists in our gameplay ability system. We are applying an effect that will change depending on a type of attack, and this will be modified by the weapon melee depending on what type of melee weapon it is, or a ranged weapon depending on what type of ranged weapon it is. Right, so this is if the character has a gameplay ability system component, so we can add actually the damage. And then we are just playing some VFX whenever they receive hit, and also some sounds. And this is for the camera shake, I believe, and slowdowns. Yeah. Right, so that's the only thing, which is actually a lot, that our weapon component is doing. Because if we are using a ranged weapon, we don't really need to do a little bit of tracing the actual weapon. We just need to trace the bullet or the magic or the projectile, whatever, and that will be the thing that does the damage. But if it's a sword, we really want for our weapon to be traced, right? And here in our weapon melee component, we're just checking, is the weapon active? If it isn't, then we are not tracing anything. Here's a multi-sphere trace by channel. We will go back to here in a minute. So whenever the weapon is active or not, remember this is just a child class of the weapon component, and the activation is determined by the animations. Whenever this is active, then we are doing the trace. what's happening here, we're just getting the weapon collision start name and the weapon end, so we can know the base and the tip of the weapon. If it's a sword, then we want like, oh, this is the sword. We want a point here and a point here, so we know that this is the blade part of the sword. Right. And because the activation is being handled by the parent component, whenever a weapon is active, it can only hit the actor, well, an actor once. It can hit multiple actors, but the same actor once. We need to deactivate the weapon and activate it again in order for us to hit more than once the same actor. Right? So that's why, even though our blade was hitting multiple times this character, it is really not that big of a deal because you can allow multiple triggers. We are only going to hit any actor once per activation. But this means also, well, that let me search the animation blueprint of my character. Basic attack. And here, let me just preview it with my collection. Right. Here is the animation. You see that there is no weapon. And yeah, the VFX probably will need to be on the weapon. I just haven't had the time to move it to the other side. But here we have, well, some combat windows in order for us to trigger or be able to do some combos. Like, you can only do combos between this part and this part, otherwise the attack just ends. And here we have the notifies for weapon activation. Attack hitbox right. And this means that, well, you are able to do use both hands for weapons. So we really need to know if I want to activate the right weapon or the weapon in the right hand or the left weapon in the left hand. So we're using montage notify windows for that in order for us to call the actual activation in this component. Now let's get to the traces. And here is like the main problem you will find in most games, like not handling the traces correctly. And I'll just show you the solution, and then in the next section I will show you like the common errors that you can have whenever you're setting up the collision trace. Right, so here we have a multi-sphere trace by channel. And I will just enable the debug weapon info just so you can see what's exactly happening. And why do I need multiple capsules, multiple spheres? And it crashed. Great. It's because I have this one open, maybe. Yeah, maybe. It's a good break for water also. Okay, I don't want it to crash again. So let me just drag and drop my character here. And because this Calypso, I can just choose the weapon right, and here we should be able to have child actor template. I'll open the Calypso sword. You need melee weapon, and here debug weapon info. I think it was that. And I don't have Calypso in my level. Forgot about that. This one. Right. Again, let me just give me infinite stamina. That's not how you get rid of the menu. Okay. So now when I hit and the weapon gets activated, I should get the information of our traces. So that is the tracing that I'm doing. You will see multiple spheres that goes from the bottom to the tip of the sword, or well, the edge, like the actual sharp part. And whenever we have an enemy, enemy knight, whenever we have an enemy, you will see that one of those traces was the one that actually connected. Yeah, so that is our tracing system, and we can tweak it a lot, actually. Like, number of collision spheres, I have 5. We can put 2 just so you see the actual base and tip. And if you want more, well, you can change also the sphere collision. But whenever I tried big numbers, then it was colliding with everything. I mean, it can collide with everything. There's no problem. But I wanted the direction when the hit happened, so I needed to be very precise with that. And well, if we can put 10 here, now it should be. Now it could also crush. Yeah. But you get what I mean. You can add more or less depending on what you want. I would like to reopen them. And I believe this has to do with the fact that I have the components open. Because I'm changing a value here. I'll put 9. I'll compile. And I don't have the character. There we go. There we go. Play. And I didn't enable this. Yeah, maybe it was too much. Yeah, it was too much for my PC right now that I'm streaming and recording. Yeah, so that's another thing that I wanted to talk about with traces. They are good, they are very performant, and I will not crash whenever I test the game out of the editor. I'm just crashing because a lot of things are happening at the same time. I mean, a lot of stuff has been loaded that I don't need here in the editor. So it's not really a representation of what it can happen. And I bet you that if I use the enemy, if I just use the enemy, the normal enemy, it won't happen. Okay, so I'll just bump it to 6. Just one more. And that's why I limited this to 10. Like 10 is too much. But you can play around the values. And it's gonna crash again. Yeah. Yeah, it's the level and the character is not helping me. The size of the level is really not helping me. Yeah, and I do want to know why am I crashing. New level, basic one. Like this should be even better. Where is my blueprint? So that's how we're handling the collisions. And this is not delete. Oh. I was wondering what's happening. I'll just enable this and start explaining how it works. And in case you would want to create something like this, that's the point of this part of the stream. Nope. Okay. So what I'm doing here is I'm getting the 2 points. I need 2 points. One is the, and again will be the whiteboard to the rescue. I need the base of the sword, and I need the tip of the sword. Then, depending on the number of spheres that I want, I will divide this space and put those spheres there. One on the tip, one on the base, and one on the tip. If I want more, then, I want 3, I will put one in the middle. I want 4, then I will divide the space and put it like this. In my case, I have 5 that work correctly, didn't crash, and it's actually not that bad in performance. And whenever I'm doing a motion, and probably it's a good idea to just click and take a screenshot. Whenever I'm doing a motion, the animation will go through these steps. It is starting here, then it's coming the next frame here, the next frame here, the next frame here, and the last frame here, right? And yeah, I don't need to draw this part because the sword is already there. So I'm checking each frame. Now, I cannot check each frame independently because otherwise I'm just checking something like this. And you get the idea. And if my enemy for some reason popped inside this, let me just put yellow again, inside this zone, the hit will not register even though my blade goes through that part. Why? Because between frames it just skipped this zone. And that was the problem that many games have. That the hit detection is not that good. And there happen phantom hits. Or just hits that were supposed to happen but didn't happen. So what I'm doing is here I'm checking the previous frame. So every frame I'm saving the location of each of these positions. And when the next frame comes, I'm checking, okay, I want to do a trace between the new position and the last one. And that's the trace that happened. And now I'm covering this area. And that's why you see that the traces are like this. I'm just checking the traces between this position and this position, this position and this position. And so forth. And so on, so on. So that's the logic that I'm following. Like, oh, I'm saving the last position, and also I'm going to check the current one with the last one. If it's the first frame, I'm just checking the same position. Like I can't get information about the other frame if the weapon is not activated. So I'm just checking, especially only when the weapon gets activated, because that's where the collision should happen. And that's why you see this type of traces. And the farthest or the longest traces that you see were because, well, the action is the fastest here. And because it was the fastest, it had the biggest probability to fail. Because the only way to fix that with this type of approach is just, okay, let's just increase the sphere collisions. And hopefully we will be able to hit something here in between. I mean, this is an easier solution to implement than the one that we're using. As you will see right now, that our melee component, whenever we are enabled, weapon is active, I'm looping for the number of spheres that we have along the weapon. Again, it's a for loop. It starts at 0. That's why I need to subtract 1. Then we're just doing the multiple sphere trace by channel, because you can hit more than one enemy. So each one of these multi-trace is what I can see here. Let me just delete it because I made a mess. From here to here, it's one run of the multi-sphere trace by channel, and it starts from the base. So this is the run with the 0 index, 1, 2, 3, and 4 index. So this is the 5th time it ran. And we're getting the previous collision start location and the end location. So we know where it starts and where it ends. We just do a lerp. So we know with this lerp, we're actually getting this value, this value, this value, this value, this value. We have the start and end. We're lerping between the spheres that we should have. Very easy. The lerp is just interpolating between two values. So if you just put here 0.5, it's going to give you the value in the middle. It saves you a little bit of nodes of dividing extra stuff. We have the radius collision. I believe I have it at 10. We have the heated actors because we don't want to hit the same actor multiple times. And if we just hit something, then I want to ignore it. This saves performance. And the end location will depend on the current position. This is the current position. This is the previous position. And you will see that every time I run this, it will be at the end. But yeah, at the end, we are saving those locations. And we're just getting from the component what's the weapon condition start name and what's the weapon condition end name. And we're getting the socket location. These names, I do have to put them manually, right? Wrong. Yeah, well, somewhere I'm putting those weapon those names. I thought it was here. Weapon. Here we have. Here? No. Sword. No, this is the range. This is for the damage. Well, I don't remember where I'm put when I where I'm putting the names for this. I believe they are just the same default name. Nope. Nope. Where I'm getting this somewhere. But it's important to have. Usually, in the case of the sword, I have the bones. This is the handle, this is the base, this is the tip. So it's very easy for me to have. When I can do this? Yeah, I can do this. I don't know why I rig it like this, but yeah, maybe for some animation where I wanted to bend it a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, but we can get that information very easy. That's what the only thing that I wanted to say. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Very simple actually. It was just a pain to test it and to get the actual values that helped me. And depending on if this is a hit or not, we are just looping for all the hits and I'm doing damage to all the actors that I hit. And this is something that we have already seen. This is in the unit weapon component where I'm checking if the hit actor is alive, if we can hit it, the team, if it's in my same team, I don't want to do some friendly fire and calculate all the stuff that we need, right? We already have checked this at the start. And that's the way that we are handling traces. And switching from this approach from for to this new one has been a blessing because now I'm not getting uh, moments where oh I'm expecting to hit this but I didn't, and it has been a good upgrade for our game, right? And so hopefully that gives you a good idea on how to handle all the hits. Yeah, so let me see if there are any question. Let me drink some water also. Yeah, so that's how we are handling this. And even though we have a loop here, in terms of performance, because the weapon is not always active, it's really good. It's actually, it doesn't impact us as much as I thought. So now, before I end the stream, I just wanted to talk about the pitfalls of doing traces in Unreal Engine, which is how fast action makes the traces unreliable and more stuff like that. But just give me a minute. it's time to eat some lunch. Okay, so let me just talk about it very quickly. Pitfalls of doing traces in Unreal in order to check collisions, right? This is all about how fast actions makes the trace unreliable and the solutions that you can use in order to handle this, right? I will add this sword here, just so I have a visual way of showing what can happen. Right, so whenever we have combat, we need to check the collision of certain objects. So if I have my object here, I will want, and the shadow is really bothering me, I will want my sword to do damage or do something whenever it hits the collision of my character. But if the attack is too fast, we will have a frame here, then another frame here, and I will enable the snapping so it's even easier to see. $500 is too much. 100. Okay, now this looks more like animation. We could have an attack that comes from here, this frame again here, and this frame here, and it's skipping my capsule, right? And it's not that straightforward to see why or how my collision is not working. Well, because, well, a good chunk of people just do the easy or the straightforward type of approach for this type of factors. Did I create a new blueprint? Here it is. Which is just, oh, okay, I'll just add my mesh. In my case, it's a skeletal mesh. This mesh will be my sword. And in this sword, I will change the collisions. Collision presets is going to block all. Because it is blocking all, now if I see the visibility collision, now I see that everything is colliding. Depending on how your skeletal mesh or your static mesh is set up, this will be very intensive. Now, in the case of this skeletal mesh, I believe it doesn't have... I don't have the mesh here. Where's my mesh? Here it is. The way the collision will be detected is through the physics asset, which is here. And in this sword, we have a sphere here and another one here. And you see that it's very wrong because I only wanted to do damage with this part. But if this gets dropped for whatever reason, we could also use this collision for that, to simulate physics, right? But I mean, it's not that great. That's what I wanted to point out. And in the case that you're working with a static mesh, which is this other one, you will need to check the collisions. Simple collision. In my case, I did put it very simple. It's just a box. And whenever it collides here, then something triggers. You can do that, or you can also delete the collision and try to do the... where is it? Where can I generate? Add auto convex collision and apply, and we will have this new type of collision, which is a lot better, but it has more polygons, and that's not good because for each face you will need to calculate the collision, and it gets very very resource intensive if you have a lot of these weapons in the level, right? So also not that good of a way to do it, right? And so those are ways you can approach this issue, and they will kind of work most of the time. Where's my new blueprint? Right. So with the collision enabled, block all, collision enabled, that means that it is blocking everything. And in the terms of weapons, maybe you want an overlap all, or overlap only all dynamic, or overlap only pound if you only want to do damage to pounds. Then you can use either the hit or the begin overlap or end overlap to do something, right? But the thing about this is that it's checking every frame, the collision, and it's happening exactly like this. Like, oh, check the frame, nothing is colliding here. Check the frame, nothing is colliding here, so you missed it again. Not only that, is that this collision, and especially if you just, where's my sword? Especially if you just come here and I will keep it simple. I will add how is it called? Collision component, box collision, and I adjust my box just to be exactly like my sword, right? These box collisions are intended to be used for static objects like doors or triggers that you know that they're not gonna move that much. Take that in consideration. This is something that I believe I heard in one of the streams from the Epic team, one of the Unreal streams. They were talking about that this type of collision is mostly for objects that are stationary. They will work if you move them around. They will sometimes, most of the times even, work, but they are not that reliable, especially when the actor is moving. Take that in consideration. And they will definitely work better if they are the root. Like if the box, you put it here. No, I didn't want to touch. There we go. If they are the root, then I have experienced better results than just having them as a component here in a component attached to another one of your components in the blueprint, right? Now, if you have this type of dynamic combat or actions or stuff that is moving around and you need to check collisions, it is a lot better to just use a trace. There are a lot of traces. And depending if you need the multiple hits or not, you have sphere traces, line traces, box traces, and capsule trace. Use them. They are very useful whenever you have a weapon and you need to, well, do some stuff with something hits. Give you a lot of flexibility, actually. You just need to know where the weapon starts and when the weapon ends. And a good approach, at least at the start, will give you like good enough results if you don't have that fast-paced combat. It's just, well, take 2 points in the weapon. I'll copy it here. Take 2 points in the weapon and just do a sphere trace from here to here. and you will get something like this. This is how, well, you can get kind of the same behavior, but with better results. If the action is still too fast, then you will need to go an extra step, because this will, oh, come on, this will still happen. Like, if you are lucky, you will get a frame that is touching the actual collision. If you're not lucky, then, well, no collision for you. So what to do next? What can I improve from my trace collisions? Well, there are a lot of ways that you can do it. In one of the streams on the Unreal Engine channel, what they did, which I found very interesting, was doing something like this. And I'll just create it as shapes, but there were no shapes. There were actually traces. But I'm not gonna create that system right now, so might as well just create it with shapes. What they did was they had points defined in their character. 1 point in the front, 1 point here, 1 point here. And whenever the animation happened, let's say that my weapon will do the actual animation. Whenever this weapon was on this side, they activated this collision. Whenever this weapon left that, they deactivated this trace. Then when it entered here, they activated this new part. So this will definitely get you concrete results. They will always work because you are always checking a large part of the area. And well, you could make it smaller or larger to suit your needs and get the precision that you need. But I found it very interesting that they just defined zones where the attack can go and enable them or disable them depending on where the weapon is. And this will be very manageable because, I mean, it looks like a lot. At most you will have, what, 9, 12? Depending on the attacks that you have. Like, oh, you now can attack the feet and you just add a new layer. So it's really not that hard to maintain. And if you are doing networking stuff, it will be a lot easier than just tracing each new site, right? Because you have a specific point in the level, and that point is attached, well, to the character because it will move depending on where the character moves, and it will turn on or off depending if your attack is going there. But that part means that it's a little bit manual. Whenever you add a new animation, you need to define, okay, this animation is the lower right, and from this part, from, I don't know, the first second to the second is the middle part of the attack, of the collisions. And then at the end, we will enable this left up collision, right? So depending on the location, which you will handle through the animation, which I closed, but in the animation you put notifies. Yeah, I'm not gonna look for it right now, but in the animation you will put notifies, and in those notifies, then you can enable this and disable this. Just create a custom event that is hooked up to the positions that our character has. And those positions can exist actually in the, I'll just search for mesh. Here it is. They can exist as sockets here. You can create those positions here and then test them and see if they are working correct. That's one way to solve it. Very friendly for networking, very friendly for the processing power that you will need to have. And yeah, that's the solution they provided. But you can create your own system like we did. I mean, I already explained it, but the way that we handle it in our game is just put points, and you just need the base one and the top one, and then we can divide the space, and put spheres there, and we trace from this frame, from the last one. I mean, we take the position from the last frame and then trace it. Let's say this is the last frame, and trace it to the new one, to the current one. This is the current frame. And we just do a trace here. And we do that for each sphere that we are uh, checking for. This is very reliable also. These have given me good results, especially if I hit something. Let's say I hit a player here, and I can know that it came from this direction, which if I was using this type of approach, it becomes a little bit harder. It can be done, but I mean, a little bit harder, right? So if I collide here, then I know, oh, the normal collision goes, excuse me, the direction is here, the normal collision is here, and well, the actor is this one. This is not friendly, or not that friendly, for networking, because if two players are playing the game, they will not have the frames match, right? So for something that for me was a hit, it may not be a hit for the other one, right? And that's an issue. But luckily for us, it's not an issue for us because we're not doing a multiplayer game. So networking can just suck it. But yeah, you can create different types of systems for getting good collisions or um, getting precise results. It's just a matter of how they adapt to your game. And yeah, just taking consideration what I have told you today in terms of using the capsules or just a collision component and being done with it. Most of the time they work, but if you are starting to get uh, no results after doing a fast attack, it's probably because of this. So yeah, those are the pitfalls that you can find yourself in whenever you are wanting to create an combat system similar to hack and slash or this type of action games where you need to collide a weapon against something. And I believe that's it for the day. Hopefully you found it useful. I know I did. I do want to let you know that you can learn everything that we have talked today in the course that you can see there. That's our way that we can actually live and keep doing free stuff, keep working on tutorials. That's our main source of income, the action game. Which yeah, I will pull up here. You can find it. You can find it in our page. Right now we are running a discount of 30% because it's the new module. Enroll now. And the coupon code is, I believe it was module 15, I believe, something like this. Yeah, module 15. And let me, should be a banner there actually. Here it is, the banner. Click on the banner. The banner has the coupon code, and it will add it. Might as well copy and paste the link. So this is the link for the course. Make sure to check it out. The first module is free, so you can check if our learning, or well, if our teaching style suits you. If it does, then it's going to continue all the modules, so might as well continue, right? There is a question. Hey, how would you do input buffer for like doing rolls and jumps? I'm trying to find some sort of system that would support both. Okay, so an input buffer, I'll just create a new project. I don't want to keep messing around in that project. I had Unreal projects, and I had my project 3. So input buffers are very okay. They're very simple in the sense that you just need to know if the input buffer is valid or not. And depending on how many buffers you want, you will need to tweak some stuff in your code. So this project only has the third person, and where is my map? So we have our character that should be able to jump. I modified it. I forgot. I modified it. Where's our camera movement? Jump velocity. Air control was 0.3, I believe. This was 2. And the threshold was 25. Okay, that doesn't matter. That comes with the third person character. I just wanted to have the normal values. And it should be jumping a little bit more, right? So 2. I'll just multiply it by 2. Right. So you need an input buffer. You need to save that you have pressed the key. Easy. You just need a variable. Pressed. Probably you will want to call it jump buffer, right? If you have multiple buffers, you could create an array of these, maybe. I don't know how many buffers you would need, probably just 2 if you just want for the rolls and jumps. So you have press jump or jump buff. This is just a boolean, true or false, and you want to jump. You just need to look for the jump input, jump, here. You set the buffer, and here it is. You need to disable the buffer somewhere. And in order to do that, you can either disable it on completed, or Oh, excuse me. This should be on trigger, actually. The buffer should be on trigger, not on the start. And now, whenever I jump... Come on. Why am I so laggy? God. Okay. Whenever I jump, now that value is in true. But just remember that this is always untrue, because it starts as false, we jump, it becomes true and never change, right? In order for it to be a buffer, what we can do is have a delay node and then remove the buffer. But before removing the buffer, I want to use the buffer. I want to jump if my buffer is true. I need to know when the player lands in order to do the action of actually jumping. In functions, because this is a character, we have a onLanded. Oh, we have an onJumped also. I will print. I forgot that we had an onJumped. Jumped. And here, land. Well, I'll just print land in a different color so it's easier to see. So we jump and land. And it is great because the jump actually only triggers whenever we actually jump, not when we press the value. So it's even perfect. So functions again, override, on jump, on land. So whenever we jump, we want our, and let me just remove it from here. We want our jump buffer to be true. Whenever we land, if a jump buffer is true, then, well, it becomes false, and also I'll jump. Just like that. So now, whenever I jump, and I press jump during the air, great, nothing happened. And nothing's happening. Just in case, I will remove this. Oh, and it may be because it is landing, which means it hasn't landed yet, right? Because it is triggering. Yeah, it is triggering the jump, but it's not actually doing it. We can either force it by changing the character movement. Set the movement mode. Change it to walk and then jump. And there we have it. And it is still jumping because I have not removed the input buffer. Oh, and thinking it better, this input buffer really needs to be here, because it should actually go to true whenever I haven't jumped. Yeah. Come on. There it goes. Right? So we have the buffer right there. Right, so that's one way of doing it. Now it's just a matter of, well, you can either do it like this, or you can also use the function, oops, on movement mode change and check if the previous mode was equal falling, and and the new mode, and I would do it like this actually, and the new mode is walking equal walking. Then I will check, oh, we have a jump buffer, and if we do, let's remove it and jump. And there we have it. Works exactly the same, but setting the movement mode can make your animation a little bit weird, right? Now it's just a matter of only setting this jump buffer when you need it. Right now we are setting it when we jump. So the first time we jump, we really don't need the the actual jump buffer. So we need to check if the character is in air. So if it is falling, if this is falling, then let's use the jump buffer, right? So let's play. We jump. And I believe that it's triggering when I release the key. So yeah, I don't remember how they set up the enhanced input. So might as well just use what it's here. So whenever it starts, we're checking if we're falling. If we're falling, then we enable the jump buffer. Right, so we'll have no jump buffer until we press again in the air. And now we have the jump buffer. After this, it's just a matter of how long you want your buffer to exist. Delay. You want your buffer to exist for 0.2 seconds? Oh, you can do it. Now you have this time for your buffer to work. Right, so even though I'm pressing here, it's being called there, but if I press in the 0.2 time, then my buffer is actually working. And we should be able to see it here. Yep, that was a buffer jump. The same thing you can do with the rolls. You can create another variable, but if you have multiple buffers, you need to check which one has priority before doing the action. And that's how you use, or how you do input buffers very quickly. You just need to know when to buffer them and when to play the animation. The animation, the code. Yeah. Well, Unity says, so I made simple double jump, and when I jump, he keep jumping, and as ending to the. I don't think I understand the questions. Okay, I'll read. I'll read it literally, and then I'll try to see if I get it. So I made simple double jump, and when I jump, he keep jumping, and as ending to space, how to fix. So how to fix whenever the character keeps jumping after a double jump. So if you did a double jump, I'm guessing you have a character movement here, and no, excuse me, in the class defaults, you have there should be a character thingy. I'll just type it. And because my face is probably blocking a lot of stuff, I'm just typing here jump. Here we have character, jump max hold time and jump max count. I'm guessing you just put 2 here and press play. And now you have some double jumping. Was that it? No. But if you're doing that, then I don't know why your character keeps jumping. If you haven't done it that way, then do check your code if something is repeating. And we did, I believe I did a video on jumping. Yeah, I'll see if I can link it. But I believe I did. There must be jump. What is a jump buffer? And how to make character jump scenario. Bad title, so bad title. So yeah, we have these two. What is a jump buffer and how to make character jumps. So I'll just link it. Issues with products. No clue. I'll just, oops. I'll just put it in the chat so I can, so well, it gets registered. And jump mechanics. So yeah, that will be it for today. Now I'm dying of hunger, so might as well end it here. And yeah, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and all that YouTube stuff. It really helps us. And if you really want a discount of the course, right now it's at a 30% discount. You should be able to do the stuff that you have seen today. And yeah, it's still in early access because we haven't finished it yet, but whenever the course finishes, we will actually bump up the price even more because it's a really complete course. And again, you can try the first module, which are like 23 lessons for free, and see how you like it. So take care, guys and girls, and all developers, even though if you're using Unity, okay, good day to you too. Take care, have fun making games.